My parents threw a birthday dinner to make me sell my home for my brother's debt. So I cut ties forever and sued them back. You could sell your apartment to cover your brother's debt, my father said with all the casual cruelty of someone who's never earned anything himself. No, Evovia. Just one word. Quiet. Firm. Final. 8 months later, they tried to sue me. I'm 31 now. And for as long as I can remember, I've been the one holding the seams of this family together. The reliable one. The responsible one. The daughter who matured too fast because someone had to. Meanwhile, my younger brother, Ryan, now 29, coasted through life like it was one long vacation, with my parents cheering him on every reckless step of the way. I never imagined that my own birthday would be the day my family would finally stop pretending. But life has a twisted sense of timing. Some truths only reveal themselves when you least expect them. Growing up, the difference in how we were treated was as clear as day. I still remember my 11th birthday. I was supposed to have a tiny party, just cupcakes, balloons, and a few friends from school. But my parents canceled it last minute, right at a baseball game. I sat in the bleachers that afternoon, trying to cheer him on, pretending it didn't hurt. No one even remembered it was my birthday. When I turned 17, I asked for driving lessons. They told me money was tight. Just 3 months later, Ryan got a used car for his 15th birthday. We'll have it ready when he turns 16, my dad said. Smiling like this was perfectly reasonable. That wasn't a one-off. It was the blueprint of my entire childhood. Building a life from scraps. When college came, my parents said it was time I learned financial responsibility. So I did. I juggled 3 part-time jobs while maintaining a full scholarship. I lived off dollar store ramen and anxiety. Meanwhile, Ryan was busy flunking his way through 4 different universities on our parents' dime. Every time classes got too hard or he just got bored, he'd switch majors. Like choosing a new video game. He finally graduated 6 years later with a business degree and a highlight reel full of Cancun spring breaks and frat house disasters. But somehow I still made it. I landed a marketing job straight out of college and clawed my way up to senior manager at a respected firm. I scraped and saved, shared a cramped apartment with 4 roommates, picked up freelance projects every weekend. And after 8 years of that grind, I bought my own place. Nothing extravagant, just a quiet 1-bedroom in a decent neighborhood. But it was mine, fully paid off. Every square foot earned through sleepless nights and sacrificed weekends. I was proud of it in a way words couldn't quite capture. Even then, I still tried to be the good daughter. I sent my parents $1,200 every month to help with expenses, even though my dad was still working, even though they always seemed to have enough money for Ryan's latest business ideas. A failed sports bar, an app that never launched, a crypto scheme that imploded before it began. Still, Ryan drove a BMW, took first-class flights to Europe, lived in a luxury high-rise my parents helped pay for. The only person in the family who ever truly saw me, really saw me, was my Aunt Laura, my mom's older sister. She was nothing like my mother. While Mom was laser-focused on Ryan's every want, Aunt Laura would check in just to see how I was. She remembered my birthday, sent me cards with handwritten notes, asked questions about my job, my hobbies, my life. She made me feel visible in a family that treated me like furniture, only useful, never precious. The birthday that broke the illusion last month, I got a text from my mother inviting me to dinner for my birthday. That alone stopped me in my tracks. They usually forgot my birthday completely, or I get a half-hearted text days later, like an afterthought. But this? A dinner invite? Part of me dared to believe. Maybe they were finally starting to see me. I bought a new dress. Silly, I know, but I wanted to believe. Maybe things were changing. Maybe for once it would feel like I mattered. But the moment I walked into my parents' house, I knew something was off. The decorations were a grocery store cake in a plastic container. No candles. No card. Ryan wasn't even there, which was strange because every family gathering usually revolved around his schedule. But I brushed it off, tried to focus on the tiny sliver of attention I was getting. Dinner was awkward, stiff. My parents kept exchanging glances like they were waiting for a cue. Then it came. My dad cleared his throat and slipped into the voice he used when pitching his ideas. Overly calm, overly rehearsed. "Nicole, we're so proud of you," he began, his tones syrupy. "You've always been the responsible one." I rock. I felt my stomach tighten. My mom chimed in, nodding like a bobblehead. "That's why we know you'll help your brother through this rough patch. It's just a temporary setback." And just like that, the curtain dropped. This wasn't a birthday dinner. It was an ambush. They explained that Ryan had gotten in trouble again. Some new business venture had gone sideways. He borrowed money from investors who were now threatening to take legal action. The amount? Just over $200,000. Then my dad, carefully avoiding eye contact, dropped the bomb. "We've been thinking. Your apartment's appreciated a lot. If you sell it, you could pay off Ryan's debt and still have enough left for something smaller." I stared at them, frozen. My fork midair. Did they really think I would sell the only thing I had worked so hard for, just to clean up his mess? What about Ryan's BMW? His apartment? His luxury watch collection? I asked, my voice cool even. My mom waved her hand like I was being ridiculous. Those won't cover it, and he needs to maintain a certain image. For his business contacts. Family helps family, they said. Ryan would do it for me, they said, and that was when I laughed. A deep, bitter laugh. Because Ryan had never lifted a finger for me. Not once. No, I said again. Simple, quiet, final. The temperature in the room dropped like a stone. My mother's expression twisted into something I hadn't seen in years, rage. My father's jaw locked. He leaned forward, his voice low and hard. After everything we've done for you, my mother spat. This is how you repay us? I looked them both in the eyes. What exactly have you done for me? I asked softly. I've sent you money every month. I put myself through college while you funded Ryan's parties. I've never asked for a single thing. My father stood up, looming over the table. If you can't help your brother when he needs you, you're no longer part of this family. And just like that, they cut the last thread. The breaking point, his words echoed in my ears like a gunshot. You're no longer part of this family. But honestly, I think a part of me had known that for years. I sat at that table, frozen, not with fear, but with a strange sense of clarity. It was like the fog of years and guilt had finally lifted. I was 11 again, sitting in that very same dining room, tears rolling down my face, holding my honor roll certificate in trembling hands. Mom, please, I had begged. I worked so hard. I got straight A's. The ceremony's tonight. She didn't even look at me. She was too busy helping Ryan build a volcano for his science fair. The one I wasn't allowed to help with because, in her words, your brother needs to learn to do things on his own. Then she said it sharp, impatient. Nicole, stop being so needy. Your brother needs me right now. That night, I pinned the certificate to my bedroom wall and stared at it alone. No one ever saw it, but me. Now, 20 years later, here we were again. Same house, same table, different betrayal. But the message hadn't changed. I wasn't their daughter. I was an ATM with a heartbeat, a fallback plan in heels. I stood up, quietly. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I just grabbed my purse and walked out the front door without looking back. I got into my car and sat there with the keys trembling in my hand. My fingers couldn't find the ignition. My chest felt like it was being crushed from the inside. And then the tears came. Not the soft, quiet kind. The kind that breaks something open inside you. I didn't know who to call, except for the one person who had never asked anything from me, who had only ever given. Aunt Laura. She answered on the first ring. I didn't even get through the whole story before she cut me off. Sweetheart, she said, her voice calm and steady. They're showing you who they really are. The question is, what are you going to do about it? And something inside me snapped. A clean break. No more pretending. No more giving just to be tolerated. No more sacrificing my happiness to prop up people who would never do the same for me. This time, I wasn't going to shrink back into my role. I was going to do what they never expected. I was going to protect me. The plan that night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, my heart still pounding, my hands still trembling. But my mind? Clearer than it had ever been. I was done being the good daughter. Done bleeding myself, try to keep everyone else comfortable. Done paying for other people's mistakes just to avoid being called selfish. I made a plan, simple, decisive, 3 steps. Step 1. I stopped the monthly payments to my parents. $1,200. Every single month. Automatically sent, without a second thought, for years. That money could have built my emergency fund, paid for a vacation, funded my retirement. Instead, it had gone to prop up Ryan's delusions and my parents' lies. Not anymore. Step 2, I blocked them. All of them. My parents. Ryan. I blocked their numbers, their emails, their social media accounts. I needed space. Space to think, to breathe, to feel something other than shame or obligation. No more late-night guilt texts. No more passive-aggressive Facebook comments. Just silence. Finally, step 3, I got a lawyer. A colleague at work had gone through something similar and recommended her attorney. Ms. Reynolds. Sharp, kind, and completely unfazed by drama. I sat in her office, heart racing, palms sweating, and told her everything. She listened, really listened, without judgment. Then she said, "You did the right thing. But just in case, let's put some protections in place." She drafted a formal cease and desist letter to create a paper trail, just in case things escalated. She also advised me to install security cameras outside my apartment. People show sides you never expected when money's involved, she warned. Better to be prepared than surprised. And she was right, because before I had even finished cutting them off, my phone was already exploding with messages. Texts, emails, voicemails, like a flood that couldn't be dammed. My mother swung wildly between martyr and monster. "I carried you for 9 months, she wrote. "This is how you repay me? You'll regret this." My father's tone was colder, sharper. "You're ungrateful. You're turning your back on family. You're not the daughter I raised." But Ryan's messages were the worst. Grow up, Nicole. Help the family for once. You've always been jealous that they love me more. Everyone knows you're the disappointment. Those last words hit like a gut punch. Because deep down, I had always suspected it. And now he was saying it out loud. But instead of crumbling, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Strength. I wasn't going to convince them of my worth anymore. I wasn't going to chase love that came with a price tag. I was done begging to be seen. When boundaries become battle lines, the week after I cut them off was chaos. My parents must have gotten my work schedule somehow, because they started showing up in my office. In person. Like it was totally normal to ambush your daughter at her place of employment after threatening to disown her. The first time it happened, I nearly had a panic attack in the bathroom. I had to sit down with my manager and explain the situation. Every raw, humiliating detail. To my surprise, she didn't judge me. She was calm, compassionate. She called security and had them escorted out. But that didn't stop them. When they couldn't reach me, they turned to everyone else. They started calling extended family, twisting the story until I became the villain. Suddenly, I was the heartless daughter who left her aging parents in financial ruin. The selfish sister who refused to help her poor brother. Uncles, cousins, even distant relatives I hadn't spoken to in years flooded my inbox with messages about family duty. They called me cruel, cold, said I was turning my back on my own blood. But none of them had seen the late-night spreadsheets, the overdraft fees, the tears in my shower after wiring my parents' money I could barely afford to spare. They didn't know the cost of being the family scapegoat. And Ryan? Oh, he took it to a whole new level. He posted a long, self-righteous rant on social media about his heartless sister who lived in luxury while her family suffered. Luxury? I lived in a one-bedroom apartment I bought after 8 years of grinding my soul into spreadsheets. Meanwhile, he had a BMW, designer clothes, and a condo paid for by my parents. But sure, I was the greedy one. If it wasn't so insulting, it would have been laughable. But the stress? It started to wear me down. I stopped sleeping. My anxiety skyrocketed. I lost weight without trying. My chest constantly felt tight, like I couldn't take a deep breath. Still, I didn't give in. Because for the first time in my life, I wasn't just surviving. I was fighting back. For weeks after the birthday dinner ambush, the cease and desist letters were hand-delivered. One of my parents, one of Ryan, Ms. Reynolds had drafted them with surgical precision, calm, professional, but firm. She documented everything. The workplace harassment, the defamation on social media, the threats, the emotional manipulation. And it worked. For the first time in months, the noise stopped. No more texts, no more calls, no more surprise visits. Just silence. It felt like stepping out of a hurricane. And for the first time in years, I could finally breathe. When the silence speaks, the silence felt strange at first. Not peaceful, just empty. After years of walking on eggshells, anticipating the next guilt trip or demand, the quiet was unnerving. I kept expecting my phone to buzz, for someone to knock on my door, for the other shoe to drop. But it didn't. No more messages. No more theatrics. Just me. I kept in touch with Aunt Laura. She didn't ask for updates, but I gave them anyway. She was the only one who didn't treat my boundaries like an obstacle to climb over. One day, she called with an update of her own. My parents were behind on their mortgage. With my payments gone, the bills were stacking up fast. They were talking about downsizing. Ryan had sold his BMW and moved into a cheaper place. The empire built on handouts was crumbling. And I'd be lying if I said it didn't stir something in me. Not satisfaction. Not revenge. Something deeper. Sadder. Grief. Not for the consequences they were facing. Those were earned. But for the truth I couldn't ignore anymore. My family didn't love me. Not really. They loved what I could do for them. Who I could become to make their lives easier. And now that I wasn't useful, I was nothing to them. That's a kind of loss no one prepares you for. So I started therapy. It wasn't easy. At first, I cried through every session. I felt stupid, broken, guilty, like I was overreacting, like I was abandoning my family. But slowly, I began to unlearn those thoughts. I took up photography, something I'd always wanted to try, but never had the time for. I spent weekends wandering parks and side streets with a camera slung over my shoulder, capturing little moments of light and shadow. It helped. Not just the hobby, but the freedom of it. For the first time, I wasn't squeezing joy in between everyone else's emergencies. I was creating it on my own terms. And then, just as things were settling, the silence broke. One evening, my security camera pinged. I opened the app, and there they were, my parents. Standing on my doorstep. They looked different. My father had lost weight. My mother wasn't wearing any of her designer clothes. They knocked for several minutes. Called my name. Left a note tucked under the mat. I waited until they were gone before retrieving it. It read, "We miss you. Want to make things right. Family should stick together through hard times. Call us when you're ready." Not one word about respecting my boundaries. No apology. No acknowledgement of what they'd done. Just another hook. Another way to pull me back in. I sent a copy to Ms. Reynolds and let her handle it. And then I did something radical. I doubled down on taking care of myself. More therapy, more photography. I even started planning a solo trip to the Grand Canyon. A lifelong dream I'd always pushed aside for someone else's crisis. Every day, I felt a little stronger, a little more me. The long goodbye 4 months had passed since the birthday dinner. I barely recognized myself, and I mean that in the best way. The panic attacks had faded. I was sleeping through the night. I had weekends again. Real ones. The kind where you breathe, where your time is yours, where nothing is expected of you. Aunt Laura called me one evening with an update. Her voice was calm, but there was something bittersweet in her tone. Ryan finally got a job, she said. Marketing firm. Local. Kind of ironic. It's one of your company's competitors. I almost laughed. Apparently, my parents had sold the house. They were living in a small condo now, telling anyone who would listen that their daughter had abandoned them. But people weren't buying it the way they used to. Sympathy was fading. Truth has a way of catching up. They're learning that actions have consequences, Aunt Laura said. Something Ryan should have learned 20 years ago. By the 6-month mark, I had changed in ways I never thought possible. Therapy gave me words for things I'd only ever felt, like how guilt was their favorite leash, how they kept me obedient by making me believe I owed them my life. I made new friends through my photography club, people who liked me for who I was, not what I could provide. No emotional debt, just kindness, curiosity, connection. And something I never thought I'd say, I started dating again. Someone kind, steady, someone who didn't make me feel like love had to be earned by shrinking myself. Of course, the guilt still crept in sometimes. Old wounds don't close overnight. But now, when those feelings surfaced, I didn't cave. I didn't reach for my phone to check in, to apologize, to make sure they were okay. Instead, I named the feeling. I sat with it, and then I let it pass. I was healing. And then, one day, the past came clawing again. An email from my mother. Somehow, likely through Ryan, she had got my work address. The message was a desperate plea. We're about to be evicted. Ryan's car was repossessed. We have nowhere to go. Can you find it in your heart to help us one last time? Once that message would have shattered me, would have sent me spiraling into guilt and obligation. But not anymore. I forwarded it to Ms. Reynolds. She added it to the case file and sent a formal warning back. And me? I felt nothing. Not rage. Not sadness. Just pity. Not for their situation. They made those choices. But for the emptiness they'd chosen. They had a daughter who would have given them the world, if they had only treated her like one of their own. And now they had nothing. Freedom. Finally last week, I closed on something I never thought I'd own. A small cabin in the mountains. Quiet. Secluded. With just enough space for a camera, a cup of tea, and peace. It's not a mansion. Not a status symbol. It's something better. It's mine. A place I didn't have to earn through anyone's approval. A place that isn't tied to anyone's expectations. Just me, a winding trail out back, and silence that doesn't ache anymore. It heals. As I unpacked the last box, I found it, tucked between some old journals and photo albums. The last family photo I ever saved. It was Christmas. 3 years ago. I stood at the edge of the frame, smiling politely, while my parents beamed at Ryan in the center. Like always, I kept it because for a long time, I believed that I could fix what was broken. That maybe if I tried hard enough, gave enough, stayed quiet enough, I could change how they saw me. But looking at that photo now, all I saw was the truth. I was never really in the picture. Not the way they were. So I walked over to the fireplace, turned on the voice recorder app on my phone, and spoke out loud. Not for them, but for me. I release you, I said. I release myself from the obligation to fix what you broke. I release myself from the guilt you planted. I release myself from the hope that you'll ever truly see me. Then I deleted the photo. Watched the pixels vanish. It felt like a weight I didn't even know I was carrying had been lifted. I stood on the porch, watching the sun dip behind the treetops, warm orange spilling over the horizon like a quiet promise. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. They're taking the condo. We'll be on the street. This is on you. It was from Ryan. I didn't reply. I blocked the number. Again. Then I looked up at the sky and let the silence return. This time, it felt different. This time, it felt like freedom. Ryan had spent a lifetime running from consequences. But I wasn't his parachute anymore. Some people might say I'm being harsh. Maybe I am. But after 3 decades of setting myself on fire to keep other people warm, I've learned something. They never felt the flames. Only the comfort. And when I finally stopped burning for them, they called it betrayal. But I call it healing. The family you choose life has a strange way of circling back. Just when I thought I was finally free, I received a formal letter from a law firm representing my parents. Their claim? That the monthly payments I'd sent them over the years weren't support, but loans. And now, they wanted it all back with interest. Over $50,000. I actually laughed when I read it. A soft, disbelieving laugh. Not from humor, but from the sheer desperation behind it. I forwarded the letter to Ms. Reynolds. She barely blinked. They have no documentation, no case, she said. This is a last-ditch attempt to scare you. Don't give it energy. And I didn't. That letter, ridiculous as it was, only proved what I already knew. Cutting ties was the best decision I ever made. There's no low they won't sink to when they lose control. Meanwhile, while they spiral, I rise. I've been promoted at work. My photography was featured in a local gallery, my very first exhibit. And I've started volunteering at a financial literacy program for young adults, helping people spot red flags in manipulative relationships, teaching them how to build their own safety nets so they don't end up like I did, drained dry by the people who should have protected them. And the most beautiful part? Aunt Laura moved closer. We have dinner together every week. She brings pie. I bring wine. We talk, laugh, remember, and then move forward. She told me recently that Ryan's been telling people I stole his investment money, but no one believes him anymore. His stories, his excuses, his pity plays, they don't land the way they used to. His patterns are too obvious now. People are tired of the show. And me? I'm done looking back. My apartment is still mine. My boundaries are still in place. And the most important thing I've learned? Sometimes the family you're born into doesn't deserve the version of you that survived. Sometimes the people who share your blood will try to drain it from you. But you get to choose who has access to your heart. I choose peace. I choose growth. I choose joy. I choose people who don't confuse love with control. And above all, I choose me. Every single day. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button, share this video with your friends, and subscribe for more real-life family dramas. Let me know in the comments what you think about today's story. Was it fair or totally messed up? See you next one.